Hello, 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 hello. I forgot to put my little mic on over here, but let me get that on and then we'll be good to go. How are you guys doing? How was your week? How was your week? How was your week? Spotify, I'm so thankful that I'm able to start recording again. It was just one device after another, after another, after another. And then you know how when you go to do something and you're faced with challenges that weren't there before, but they decide to show themselves prior. I mean, as you're getting your life, and that's exactly what happened to me. And I hate it because every time, every week, there's some issue, and I'm not sure why that is or why that happens to me. Uh-oh. And then I do that. And I don't appreciate it. Oh, I feel like I'm like Laurel and Hardy and all them. Like slapstick kind of shit. Drives me nuts. Y'all have no idea. But anyway, let me just put it right here, damn it. All right. So welcome to my show, Dina Marie Live. And child, it is a lot to talk about and a lot going on. Not just with me in this situation, but just a lot going on in our world. Our world is tripping out. Okay. The people, the places, the things, and I don't know what's going on, but Jesus, can you take the wheel and be a friend? Oh, yeah. I need you, Jesus. Hey, Ikram. My friend Ikram is in town. He's from Europe and he is here. And I wanted him to come on my show, but for whatever reason, we couldn't get things worked out. And it's okay. He'll be back. And hopefully at that time, we'll get to go ahead and have him on the show. There's a lot of things that I want to get started with today. And one thing is, I had brought this up previously, and that was about why our world why I never could understand why our country always has to get involved in certain things. And I'm just so upset. I don't even like how I look on the screen, but anyway. And then this back here is driving me nuts. Don't even think about it. Like, I'm not in the mood, headset. I'm not in the mood, so please do not. This is like, I gotta find some other way. Like, look at that. So ghetto. I'm just annoyed. But like I said, what am I gonna do? It is what it is. Okay. Thank you, April. I'm just a perfectionist. I think that's what it is. But so anyway, I always talk about this and okay. And I always wonder, I'm like, why our country has to involve themselves in things. And I get it. I know that, you know, it's because of diplomacy and, it's mainly because um, with a lot of the United States tries to keep everything at bay so that, no things pop off and things don't come or get bigger than they are. But like sometimes I swear they're huge. In all these other countries, there's a lot going on, and it's very unfortunate what's happening over in Israel. And I know like a month or two back, we had the Armenian people who were just thoroughly disgusted, frustrated, bamboozled, and bewildered about the fact that their country and their people were starving and just going through some things. And then they had the whole big thing with Gail King not addressing the fact that there were reparations and stuff like that. But the thing about it is when I sit here and I do my little investigative work and stuff like that, I realize what the situation is. And what the situation is that again, it's kind of like you go to your big sister or your big brother and you're like, hey, can you help me with my homework? And maybe your big brother or big sister doesn't want to help you with your homework, but they know that there's a responsibility that they have just to kind of be there for you. Okay. And so I kind of feel like that's how it is with the United States and helping other countries. We're like big brother, and they're basically always someone looking out to ask if we can help, and if we will be in a space for them when they need us. And diplomacy is the practice of basically conducting negotiations and maintaining relationships between our country or an organization or individuals or whatever. And so, yeah, it resolves conflicts, and basically the hope is it's designed to achieve peace through formal means. Technically, it takes some communication, negotiation, and the use of diplomatic tools to basically foster the understanding and collaboration among different parties. And diplomats are basically and typically responsible for representing their country's interest in this diplomatic relationship. Okay. So technically, the United States uses diplomacy, as I mentioned, with other countries for a wide range of purposes, including conflicting resolutions. Okay. So diplomacy is used in resolving international conflicts, like I said earlier, as well as helping with scenarios like promoting trade and economic interests and alliance building and promoting human rights. And so, right now, when we look at what's going on with Israel, over here in Israel, the United States became Israel's closest ally. Now, they've had some arguments in the past or what have you, but theoretically, what has happened is because they've had political differences, they've had maybe in the past a strained relationship. Basically, in recent days, the United States has become officials that have in recent days the U.S. officials have um, basically stopped their arguing to help with the diplomacy in Israel, financially and military wise. So Biden, who has previously criticized, um, oh gosh, I meant to look up how to say his name, Netanyahu. Let me make sure I'm saying that right. Netanyahu's right wing government. He was criticizing Netanyahu's government, who is the, I think, prime minister or the governor, or not. I don't think they call it the same thing. But anyway, prime minister, I want to say, of Israel. But he was unequivocally uh, in an address at the White House, and he was like, "We stand with Israel, and we will make sure that Israel has what it needs to take care of its citizens and to defend itself and respond to this attack." So, appearing alongside Netan, how do you say that? Netanyahu. I'm going to look it up. Just give me a second, everybody. How do you pronounce? But so he decided, hey, let me go ahead and put this out there because I need them to know that we're going to be here. Now, in my opinion, now I don't know how you all feel, but I feel like, how do we know that basically these things are not
Netanyahu.
Let's say it again, Netanyahu. Netanyahu. Speak now. How do you say this?
Netanyahu.
Netanyahu. Say it one more time.
Netanyahu.
Netanyahu. Okay. So like Yahoo. Anyway, Netanyahu. So because Netanyahu and Biden have sat down On Thursday, which is today, the U.S. Secretary of State Blinken said, you may be strong enough on your own, but we are here to represent you as well. So, America, but as long as America exists, you'll never, ever have to be by yourself or whatever, and we'll always be there by your side. So the U.S. officials have urged basically every possible precaution to be like, oh, we're on standby here. We're going to complete the siege of Gaza and be responsible, of Gaza, and give a response to the Palestinian militant group Hamas and a deadliest attack. We're going to be here. But nevertheless, it's like Israel unconditional. We've given them an unconditional amount of aid, which is total to 158 billion. And I know we can use that in our own country. But again, these are the things that happen. These are the things that go on in our country. And sometimes I just wonder, we have this alliance building that the United States engages in to use diplomacy in building the strength of their alliance to other countries, and it includes military stuff. So I'm sure that there is some type of, kickback that the United States gets from these different countries to be able to enhance security and cooperation from those areas, like military weapons and things like that. Things like climate change and global issues. I know we try to say we can do everything, but I don't think we can use diplomacy for that. But I mean, it is one of the things that we mention in the United States, that we can help in different countries and help with different priorities in countries, and have different priorities that may align with U.S. diplomatic objectives. So it's kind of like saying, I'll help you out, but you got to do it my way, But the thing of it is a control thing. Common recipients of the United States foreign aid and assistance have included countries like I said, Israel, Egypt, Afghanistan, Jordan, Pakistan, some sub-African countries. I don't know which ones those are, but Africa has a lot of poverty and health issues. But countries in need of disaster relief, so the United States comes into the aid for that. But it's important just to note that the United States foreign and aid and assistance programs and diplomacy are subject to change over the years. We don't know. In one moment, these policies will be international and be developmental in those international countries. So we can list countries that receive the most help, and it can evolve over time. But also the United States government evaluates its assistance programs based on a combination of strategies and, strategic diplomacy and humanitarian and economic considerations. But it's amazing to me that I feel like when there's certain things that we need, we don't really have the assistance on an individual sense or as a group of people, because we have a lot going on in our own country that we need to take care of, And I know, as Ikram pointed out, in the UK, they have a lot of money that they send over to fight, but enough to help cost of living at home. And whether that's the US or the UK or Europe or whatever, it is what it is. It's just like our government. It's almost like I said in past times, that it's like a man fighting for power or what have you, and we see that a lot when we do have, our to go to the polls, the domestic politics, uh, the diplomacy is even used for that. So there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes or whatever, but in the process of this, when we talk about wishes for the world, that Israel and the Hamas are at war, and we don't know how they really got there. Why did Hamas attack Israel? There is basically a timeline of events that took place, and it's saying that their assault on southern Israel exposed the reality of the Palestine conflict. And in that process, it was like across Israel's southern borders with Gaza, they did this because they felt that they were being slighted in some kind of way. And they did this unprecedented strike on Israel. And what we know is that there's nothing like the history between them. So they have history and conflict. And even in the early 2000s, they had a mass incursion, into Israel's territory. And in that time, you know, those consequences were different conflicts that were happening because the Middle East is dimly frustrated, and there's this anticipation that, so many people are going to die for their country, so they don't really care. But we can see, first of all, that there are conditions that made it possible, though we can be sure that Hamas could basically launch an attack now. And we know that there are a number of background conditions. Ongoing occupation issues, recent surges on conflicts in Jerusalem and the West Bank. There's a far right Israel government and the Israel Saudi negotiations about normalizing relations that made the situations very difficult and combustible. So they just always are at odds. They're never on a good page to be able to say, let's negotiate this. If we sit here and we try and figure out what the timeline is, do we even know? We kind of get like brushed around and turned around and put in a place where we're like, okay, well, let's say this, let's say that. Full war between Israel and Hamas would mean that there would be a lot of deaths. There would be a lot of unfortunate, lives that would be destroyed. And for what? We don't even really have a resolution, or not even a resolution, but we don't even have a reason. It's not a full-fledged reason. Of course, we could talk about power. Power has always been the issue when we talk about war. It's so many, 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 many things. Can you hear me okay, Ikram? I see you said my name. Yoo-hoo. Hopefully you can hear me okay. But anyway, when it comes down to it, like I said, there's just so much going on. And there's so many good. Okay. There's so many issues. Now you can, or you couldn't before? I wonder why. Let me put it on my necklace. Oh my God. Are you kidding me? Like, really? I'm so annoyed right now, y'all. Dang it. Ugh, shoot. And I have to get it because these little animals I got. The microphone fell on the floor. It's so annoying. Y'all have no idea what I'm going through right now. Hold on, let me see if I can't turn on the light and light a candle. But when I think about it, like, I think it's so sad because I remember as a young girl, these are things that our country's been going through for years. It's like I remember when they would say guerrilla warfare. And as a young girl, I thought, guerrillas? Why are they bringing gorillas into this? What they do? I'm like, what the gorillas do? So now, as an adult, I can tell you that I still hear the same things and the same references, but I still don't really understand it. And I would love for someone to chime in or join our chats and tell us more that really gets what's going on. But I figure people don't talk about it because they don't understand it either. I just don't get it. But when at first the US was mostly giving, but also selling weaponry. So I can say that, and they sold it to Israel and allowing them to not only to buy it, but to borrow some. And they would do it in the United States. They would allow them to borrow from United States banks at a lower market rate. just to support their development efforts. But in the 80s and the 90s, the United States and Israel began cooperating on research and development and production of weaponry. So they started helping each other out. And in doing this, the Arab neighbors, the United States signed the first of 3 10-year memorandums that committed them to providing billions in military aid annually. So when that happened after 9/11, the 9/11 terrorist attacks, that money helped spur advancement in Israel's surveillance technology, as well as their signal alliance, which by the 2000s, what ended up happening there, it was like they were saying, well, we're at least as good as in some cases better than that of the United States. That was what Benin said. Benin. But in 2011, Israel implemented its Iron Dome, and that was a short-range air missile defense system that actually utilizes radar technology to destroy rockets fired by Hamas. Okay, so other militant groups but the thing of it is the system uses the United States constructed parts, and it's funded in part by the US. So what does that mean? Basically, US owns part of it. I mean, what's really going on? Currently, Israel receives, like I said, like 3.8 billion in military aid from the United States annually under a actual memorandum that was signed back in 2019. But I don't think that's included in the 158 billion that I mentioned earlier. That accounted for about 16% of Israel's total military budget. Okay. So then in 2022, what happened? There was a significant amount of that budget, but not a large, but not so large that Israel still depends on the United States aid, basically. So they're on their own. But like they used to depend on us more, but now they don't depend on us as much. Too much money, right? The U.S. could use that help in its own people first. And just like we were talking about these other countries like Armenia, where the Armenian people are so frustrated because they're hungry and their people are hungry. These are things that could be going to good causes. But instead, it's like, who has the biggest, what? And so they're trying to compare these and killing up people in the midst of that. But on the other level, other people are hungry. But that's because the people that are hungry, the people that are in these other countries, what can they do for me? What can you do for me? What can you do for me? Kind of concept, And I feel bad for Israel. I don't want their people to die. The Middle East could do more. And they're the wealthiest. You're absolutely right, Ikram. But the thing of it is that the military's industrial surveillance complexes of both countries are very tight intertwined. So because they're so intertwined, America has the capacity to some extent to defend Israel. So that's the reason is that, Israel made this situation. But see, this is my thing. Would you trust them in a situation if we got in a situation up in situations? Would you trust them to be able to come to our aid? Or is it like, oh, okay, we're just going to use the US or whoever we can use to make sure we get these, domes set up and put in place so that we can, fight for our country, protect our people. But if the United States needs assistance, is Israel going to come to our aid? Is it going to be a time in which we'll know what's going on? Israel has been a key pillar in the United States goal to create an basically an integrated area of integrated prosperous of security where the Middle East is concerned. And it looks like it's going to turn its focus to other parts of the world like Russia and China. Okay. So, during the Trump administration. And it all comes back to haunt you because, we sit here and we ask ourselves, why was Trump put in office? What was he doing there? Why was he this, that, the third? Well, it looks like that was a ploy for future endeavors. And for whatever reason, it was almost like behind the scenes, somebody was like, well, if you put Trump in there, then I'll do this negotiation. And so the United States was like, shoot, go ahead, put him in there. Let him only serve for 4 terms, and then we'll get him out of there because we know he's going to be a hot, a loose cannon. Is what I was trying to say. So we need to get him in, get him out. But in the background, now here they want to bring up the fact that during the Trump administration, the world turned its focus on parts of the world like Russia and China so that they could use or at least solicit, if necessary, Israel's assistance on taking down Russia and China. Because now they're like, okay, we want the big dogs. We got people that are allies, but we don't really have big dogs, so to speak, as our allies. China and Russia would be the big dogs, and we're America. We can do anything. But it's ridiculous. The United States Arab basically has Emiratis, the Bahrain, and the Morocco is speculation that Hamas attack was intended for them. But basically, there's speculation that Hamas attack was intended to append talks, basically brokered by Biden's administration, to also normalize relationships between and its main region rival, Saudi Arabia. So now we got that going on. Saudi Arabia is never going to go away. We've been dealing with that for I don't know how long. Just always something with the same people. And yes, it's both one power. And it didn't even make good sense. It makes no sense whatsoever. So anyway, in us talking about wishes for the world and us trying to hopefully combat these issues that are continuously arising between us and other countries, even though we are supportive of Israel and we're trying to support some of these other countries or what have you, it seems like it's, the more things change, the more they stay the same, folks. And my wish for the world is that we would come together and help those in our country who basically need the assistance. And not to say that we couldn't help other people in other countries, but basically, let's take care of home first. Because when you take care of home first, you never know. Home can be there for you. And you may not have to seek the aid to those other countries. So we'll be back in just a few minutes with our next subject of trending topics, you guys. You guys are awesome. Please come back. I'll be right back. Thank you.